I had always thought of our home as a sanctuary, a place where art and memory intertwined. My family's collections span generations, paintings, sculptures, rare manuscripts, and I had trusted Hans implicitly. So, when I stepped into the study that morning and found the ledger open, I didn't expect the truth it held. At first, I didn't understand. Numbers and names blurred together on the page. Then it hit me like a punch to the chest. Several of the most priceless pieces were missing, sold to fund what? I scanned the pages, disbelief rooting me to the spot. Hans, I called, voice trembling, echoing through the marble halls. What have you done? He strolled in leisurely, hands behind his back, the casual arrogance I once found charming now a dagger in my chest. Heidi, you found my little hobby, he said with a smirk. Curious, aren't you? You always were a bit naive. Naive, I echoed, my voice rising. You've been selling my family's art, our heritage, to fund your lifestyle? With women. The words felt like acid in my mouth. I couldn't comprehend the man I had married, the man I had loved. Hans shrugged, as though discussing the weather. You were always too stupid to notice, my dear, he said lightly, almost amused. I suppose it's finally time you learned how the world really works. I staggered back, chest tightening, a wave of nausea and disbelief overtaking me. The walls of our house, the paintings, the statues, the heirlooms, seemed to close in, mocking me. Rage, humiliation, and grief swirled inside me until I felt as though I were unraveling, breaking apart into pieces I didn't know existed. For a long moment, I just stood there, unable to speak, unable to breathe, watching him with wide, uncomprehending eyes. And then, something inside me shifted. The shock, the pain, the betrayal, they coalesced into something sharper, harder, brighter. The naive girl who had trusted too easily, who had believed in love without question, began to die. And in her place, a new version of me, the cunning, unyielding Heidi, was being born. I clenched my fists, feeling the tight coil of anger and determination deep in my chest. You think you can humiliate me and walk away laughing? I said, voice trembling, but with a steel edge that hadn't existed before. You've underestimated me. That's your first mistake, Hans. He laughed, a harsh, empty sound that grated against me. And your second mistake? He asked, eyebrows raised. You won't know until it's too late, I said, the words tasting like fire on my tongue. I'll see every cent you stole. I'll undo every move you've made. And when I'm done, you'll regret the day you ever thought you could control me. His smirk faltered, just slightly, as if for the first time, he realized the depth of my resolve. As I walked away from him, my eyes flicking to the empty spaces where the art once hung, I felt something extraordinary. Clarity. The betrayal that had nearly shattered me had also awakened a side of myself I had never known. I was no longer the trusting, naive woman who married Hans Klaus. I was Heidi Muller, and now, I was reborn. And my first step would be finding Otto, the boy next door, the one who had always seen me, not as a collection of my family's legacy, but as me. I hadn't seen Otto in over a decade, not since he was the boy who built tree houses in my backyard, his hands always a little scraped, his eyes full of laughter. Back then, I had thought of him as my safe harbor, someone I could always count on. Never had I imagined that, years later, he would become my anchor in a storm of betrayal. I picked up my phone, my hands trembling slightly. The thought of reaching out to him was terrifying. Otto had grown up, changed, become someone I hardly recognized. But I knew, deep down, that he was the only one I could trust now. The phone rang once, twice, and then his familiar voice, warm and steady, answered. Heidi, Otto, I breathed, trying to steady my voice. It's me. I need your help. There was a brief pause on the line, and then a chuckle, soft but tinged with surprise. Heidi Muller? After all these years? I'd recognize your voice anywhere. Are you in trouble? I felt my chest tighten. Yes, very much. It's Hans. He's been selling the art collection, the family pieces, everything, and using it to fund his lifestyle. I stopped, taking a shaky breath. I can't do this alone. There was silence for a moment, then Otto's voice softened, threaded with concern. Heidi, I had a feeling something like this would happen. I've always known Hans was trouble. I need you, Otto, I whispered. I need someone who knows me. Someone who sees me, not just the art, not just the house, but me. Can you help me? I'll be there, he said immediately. Whatever you need. I've been waiting for the chance to stand by you all these years. My heart skipped. His words were steady, certain, and full of something I hadn't allowed myself to feel for years. Hope. I knew you would, I said softly. I knew you'd be the one I could trust. A pause. Then, in that low, warm voice that had always made me feel safe, Otto added, Heidi, I've always cared for you. You've been in my thoughts all these years. And now, we'll fix this together. You won't face him alone. I swallowed, feeling a rush of emotions, gratitude, relief, and something far more potent, the fluttering pull of desire. My fingers traced the edge of my phone, imagining him there, steady and strong. Thank you, Otto, I whispered. I need you now more than ever. I'm coming, he said. Stay strong, Heidi. When I arrive, we'll plan. And I promise, Hans won't know what hit him. As I hung up, a strange calm washed over me. The betrayal, the humiliation, the heartbreak, it was still raw, still jagged, but now I had an ally, a protector, and someone who had loved me from the very beginning. My heart, which had felt shattered beyond repair, now carried a spark of hope, cunning, and maybe something else. Otto was coming, and with him, I knew that the woman I was becoming, the woman of steel, strategy, and fire, would finally have her chance at justice. Otto arrived just as the sun dipped behind the city skyline, painting the streets in gold and shadow. Seeing him again after all these years was like stepping into a memory, but he was no longer the boy who built treehouses. He carried himself with a quiet confidence, the kind that came from power, wealth, and knowing exactly what he wanted. And tonight I felt I was exactly what he wanted. We settled in my study, the room heavy with the scent of old paper and varnished wood, the remnants of the art Hans had already sold still haunting the walls. Otto pulled out his laptop, fingers flying across the keyboard. I've been tracking him for weeks, he said, eyes meeting mine with that intensity one remembered. Every transaction, every offshore account, every lie. He won't see this coming. I leaned closer, curiosity and something warmer fluttering in my chest. You've really always been this precise, haven't you? I murmured, letting my hand brush his as I gestured toward the screen. He smiled, a small, almost shy curve of his lips. Only when it matters, he said softly. The brush of his fingers lingered a moment longer than necessary, and I felt a shiver run up my arm. Together, we went through every detail, tracing the path of stolen art, noting loopholes and vulnerabilities in Hans's schemes. With each piece of evidence, my confidence grew. I realized that I wasn't just planning revenge. I was reclaiming myself, my family's legacy, and my power. And Otto was more than my partner in this. He was my anchor, my strength, and, dare I admit it, the one who made my heart race in ways I hadn't felt for years. Do you remember the treehouse we built behind my old house? I asked suddenly, a small, wistful smile tugging at my lips. You were always so determined to make it perfect, even when I complained about the crooked walls. He chuckled softly, leaning closer so that his arm brushed mine. I remember. You told me it was the ugliest treehouse ever, and yet you climbed up every day anyway. You always had more courage than I gave you credit for. My breath caught at the warmth in his voice, the nearness of him, the faint brush of his hand against mine. I feel like that girl again, I whispered. But this time, I'm not climbing to hide. I'm climbing to strike. He smiled, a slow, dangerous curve of his lips. Then let's strike together, he said, and his hand found mine, fingers interlacing. The contact was electric, a promise, a thrill. We'll take him down, Heidi. And when we do, you'll finally be free. Not just from him, but from everything holding you back. I squeezed his hand, feeling courage, warmth, and desire mingle inside me. And you will be by my side? I asked, almost breathless. Always, he murmured, eyes darkening with intensity, leaning just close enough that his chest brushed mine. Every step, every move, every moment. As we bent over the laptop together, tracing Hans's empire, I felt more alive than I had in years. The betrayal that had once shattered me now fueled me. And with Otto's hand in mine, the line between justice and desire blurred, igniting a fire I had long forgotten and would never let go out again. The morning light fell through the tall windows of my apartment, but the world outside seemed distant, unimportant. Inside, Otto and I were huddled over screens and documents, plotting Hans's downfall with meticulous precision. Every account, every transaction, every hidden asset would be exposed. And I, Heidi Muller, would watch the man who had betrayed me crumble. You know, Otto said softly, brushing a stray lock of hair from my face as he leaned closer, you look like you were born to do this. All that pain, all that betrayal, it's forged you into something unstoppable. I shivered slightly at the closeness, feeling his chest brush against mine. Unstoppable. I like the sound of that, I murmured, my fingers brushing his as I adjusted a document on the table. The contact was electric, subtle, yet it sent a thrill up my arm. He smiled, eyes dark and intent. We make a good team, Heidi. You and me. Justice, revenge, and something else. He didn't have to finish the sentence. The tension between us had been building for weeks, unspoken but palpable. I felt it in the brush of his fingers, the warmth of his body when he leaned close, the intensity in his gaze. I took a deep breath, forcing focus. First step, I said, pointing to the screen, is freezing his accounts. We trace every cent he stole, and then we lock him out of his own empire. Otto's hand found mine again, fingers tingling, almost as if he needed my touch as much as I needed his guidance. Done, he said softly, almost a whisper meant only for me. By tonight, he won't know what hit him. The day passed in a blur of strategy and precision. We moved through the steps like a well-oiled machine, our hands occasionally brushing, our eyes meeting in charged, silent communication. Each touch, no matter how brief, made my pulse quicken. Each glance carried the weight of long-suppressed feelings, the promise of something deeper than friendship. Later, as the final phase approached, Hans's exposure, I watched Otto lean closer, his breath warm against my ear. Are you ready for this? He murmured, hand resting lightly on my lower back. For him to finally see you not as a victim, but as the woman you truly are? I nodded, chest tightening at the nearness of him. I'm ready. And with you, I feel like nothing can stop us. My hand slid over his, squeezing briefly, and I felt him tense slightly, the heat of his body brushing mine. That evening, as Hans received the first wave of notifications, his accounts frozen, his assets traced, his lies unraveling, I stood beside Otto, hand in hand, feeling a mixture of triumph and something far more intoxicating. He turned to me, eyes dark, lips just inches from mine. Heidi, you've never looked more alive, he murmured. And soon we can celebrate properly. Just us. I leaned into him, breathless, fingers tingling in his. Then let's make sure this is over, I whispered. And then we can be selfish. Just you and me. His lips brushed mine in a feather-light kiss, igniting a fire that had been smoldering for years. Just you and me, he echoed. And in that moment, with Hans's empire collapsing and Otto's arms around me, I felt the exhilarating thrill of power, desire, and love intertwining, and I knew the next steps would be as intoxicating as they were unstoppable. The day Hans realized his empire was crumbling was the day I finally tasted the sweetness of true victory. I watched from my apartment as Otto orchestrated the final moves, freezing accounts, alerting authorities and exposing every single fraudulent transaction. Hans had spent years thinking he could manipulate, control, and humiliate me, but now, every carefully laid plan of his unraveled before his eyes. "Heidi," Otto said softly, his hand brushing mine as he sat beside me. "It's almost over."
"Can you feel it?"
I smiled, a thrill of triumph coursing through me. "I can feel it," I said, squeezing his hand, letting my fingers linger. The warmth of his touch made my heart race, more thrilling than any victory over Hans could. And I think I've never felt more alive. He leaned closer, his chest brushing mine. "You've earned this. Every ounce of cunning, every moment of strength, it's yours." His thumb traced circles on the back of my hand, a slow, deliberate touch that made me shiver. Just then, Hans called. I let the call ring, watching Otto's eyes darken with intensity as he silently assured me that Hans's world was collapsing. "Go ahead," Otto murmured, fingers brushing mine again. "Let him hear you," I answered, voice cold but composed. Klaus." The line crackled. "Heidi, what is happening? Why are my accounts?" His voice faltered, disbelief bleeding through. "You underestimated me," I said, voice sharp, steady. "You thought I was naive. You thought I'd let you destroy everything I love. But look around you. Hans, the empire you built on lies and theft is gone." There was a pause, then a bitter laugh. You think you've won?" "I know I have," I said, a thrill of triumph coursing through me. "And thanks to Otto, every cent you stole has been traced. Every lie has been exposed. You're finished." The line went dead. I sank back in my chair, heart racing, and Otto pulled me into his arms, holding me tightly. His lips brushed my temple, then my cheek, lingering like a promise. "You did it," he murmured. "I've never been more proud of you." I leaned into him, letting the warmth of his body envelop me, my hands tracing the line of his shoulders. "We did it," I corrected, letting a small laugh escape. "Together." He smiled, fingers sliding into my hair, brushing strands from my face. "Together," he repeated, and then, softly, he pressed his lips to mine. It was a kiss slow and deliberate, a celebration of triumph and desire, a melding of our hearts and bodies. I wrapped my arms around his neck, deepening the kiss, letting every lingering frustration, every scar of betrayal, melt into this moment of passion. His hands roamed my back, pulling me closer, grounding me in the fire of us. When we finally broke apart, breathless and flushed, he whispered, "This is only the beginning, Heidi. You, me, and whatever we want from life. No more shadows, no more lies." I smiled against his chest, feeling the power and love intertwine. "I like the sound of that," I whispered. "As long as it's with you." And in Otto's arms, with Hans defeated and my family's legacy safe, I felt the intoxicating mix of victory, desire, and belonging. Finally, I was free. Free to be clever, strong, and utterly loved. The night air was crisp as Otto, and I stepped onto the balcony overlooking the city, the skyline sparkling like a sea of lights beneath us. Hans's empire had fallen completely, the last traces of his lies exposed, and I felt lighter than I had in years. Victory had a sweetness all its own, but the real thrill was standing beside Otto, feeling the warmth of him, the steady, unwavering presence that had been mine since childhood. "You did it," he said, voice low, brushing a stray strand of hair from my face. His fingers lingered, tracing the line of my jaw. "I've never seen anyone take control the way you did, Heidi. I'm in awe." I shivered at the touch, heart racing, feeling both pride and something else, something dangerous and exhilarating. "I couldn't have done it without you," I whispered, letting my hand rest over his chest, feeling the steady beat of his heart. "You were my anchor and my spark." He smiled, leaning closer so that our foreheads touched. "We make a good team," he murmured, lips just brushing mine. "But I think we both know it's more than that." I nodded, breath catching as I felt the warmth of his body against mine. "Yes," I admitted softly. More than just partners in revenge. Otto's hand slid along my waist, pulling me flush against him, his lips tracing mine in a slow, heated kiss. Every touch, every press of his body, sent shivers up my spine. I had felt desire before, yes, but this was different. It was intimacy woven with trust, admiration, and the thrill of survival. "I've waited so long for this," he whispered, teeth grazing my lower lip, "to hold you like this, to touch you like this, to finally have you entirely." My fingers threaded through his hair, pulling him closer, our breaths mingling. "Then don't stop," I breathed, voice low and urgent. "I want every moment with you, every touch, every kiss." He chuckled softly against my lips, hand tracing the curve of my back. "As long as you want me, Heidi, I'll never stop." We sank onto the chaise on the balcony, the city lights shimmering around us, and I let myself melt into him. His hands explored, slow and deliberate, tracing my shoulders, my arms, lingering over my waist. Every caress spoke of devotion and desire, every kiss a promise. I rested my head against his chest, feeling the rhythm of his heartbeat sync with mine, grounding me in the overwhelming reality of love finally realized. "I've dreamed of this," he murmured against my hair, lips brushing my temple. "Being close to you, knowing you're mine, no games, no betrayal. Only us." I lifted my face, capturing his lips again, letting the heat between us grow. "I've dreamed of this too," I whispered. "And I never want it to end." As the night deepened and the city slept below, Otto and I held each other, hands and lips speaking words no one else could hear. Victory over Hans was sweet, but this closeness, this intimacy, this merging of heart and desire was intoxicating. And I knew, with absolute certainty, that the woman reborn in fire, cunning, and determination had found her perfect match. The days following Hans's initial downfall were electric. Every morning brought news of his crumbling alliances, frozen accounts, and mounting humiliation. But while I reveled in his defeat, my thoughts were constantly drawn to Otto, the man who had been my anchor, my partner, and now, undeniably, the desire I could no longer ignore. One evening, as we reviewed the final evidence against Hans, I noticed him watching me. His eyes were dark, intense, and completely focused on me, as if he could see every thought, every fear, every spark of fire inside me. My pulse quickened. "You know," he said softly, brushing a hand along my lower back, "I've waited for the right moment to tell you this, to show you." His fingers lingered, tracing a slow, intimate path. "You're incredible, Heidi. Strong, clever, breathtaking. And I've wanted to hold you like this for years." I swallowed, feeling warmth flood my chest. "Otto," my words faltered as his hand found mine, fingers entwining, the touch electric. "I feel the same way. I've always felt the same way." He leaned closer, lips brushing mine in a feather-light kiss, sending shivers down my spine. "Then don't hold back," he murmured. "Let me show you everything." We sank onto the chaise in the study, the laptop forgotten for a moment, and I let myself melt against him. His hands moved with a steady, confident warmth, tracing my shoulders, my arms, lingering on my waist. Every brush of skin against skin ignited a fire I had tried to deny for years. "Otto," I whispered, breathless, fingers threading through his hair. "I've waited so long for this. For you." His lips found mine again, deeper, hungrier, claiming me with a tenderness and passion that left me trembling. "And now," he murmured between kisses, "you have me. All of me." We held each other close, exploring, laughing softly, and letting the intimacy deepen with every touch. His hands cupped my face, his thumbs brushing my cheeks, his breath warm against my neck. I pressed against him, heart racing, feeling a connection that went beyond desire, a bond forged in trust, protection, and shared triumph. Later, as the night deepened, Otto's hands rested over my heart. "You're more than a masterpiece, Heidi," he whispered. "Your fire, brilliance, and strength. And I'll spend every day proving that you're the only work of art that matters to me. I rested my forehead against his, voice soft, filled with emotion. And you're the man I've always needed. My anchor, my passion, my home. As Hans's empire crumbled completely in the background, Otto and I remained locked in each other's arms, the intimacy between us a perfect counterbalance to the chaos he had left behind. The betrayal that once shattered me now only fueled the fire between us, and I knew, with certainty, that nothing could break what we had found together. Strength, passion, and love intertwined. That night, wrapped in Otto's embrace, I finally felt complete, reborn, triumphant, and utterly, irrevocably in love. The morning sun spilled gold across my apartment, highlighting the quiet chaos of our victory. Hans was gone, his empire obliterated, every lie exposed, every stolen penny accounted for. And yet, the triumph was secondary now. The real prize was here, Otto, standing beside me, steady, warm, alive, and wholly devoted. He caught my hand as I turned toward him, lifting it to his lips. "Heidi," he murmured, voice low, intimate, "you've been breathtaking through all of this. Strong, clever, magnificent. But now, knowing I can finally hold you freely," his lips brushed mine, soft and lingering, sending a shiver down my spine. I leaned into him, letting his arms wrap around me, warmth and safety colliding with desire. "I've waited so long for this," I whispered. "For us." "And now," he said, hand tracing the curve of my waist, "we have all the time in the world." His lips followed the line of my jaw, a trail of kisses that made my knees weak. No more shadows. No more betrayal. Only you and me. I let myself melt against him. Every touch a spark, every kiss a flame. My hands slid over his chest, feeling the solid warmth of him, the strength that had always protected me. "I never want to let go," I admitted, voice trembling. "Not now, not ever." His hands roamed my back, pulling me impossibly close, pressing me against him as if to make sure I was real, here, and wholly his. "You're mine," he whispered, lips brushing mine again, deeper, hungrier. "And I'm yours. Completely." We sank onto the chaise, laughter and whispered confessions mixing with kisses and soft, lingering touches. Otto's fingers traced my hairline, down my neck, along my shoulders, each caress deliberate, tender, and electrifying. I pressed against him, heart pounding, feeling an intimacy that went beyond desire, an intertwining of soul and body, trust and passion. "Every scar," he murmured, lips brushing my temple, "every betrayal you endured, it only made you more magnificent, more beautiful, more irresistible." I shivered, letting my hands roam along the solid lines of his shoulders, pulling him closer. "And you make me feel safe and wild all at once," I whispered, lips finding his neck. "I never knew love could be like this." His laugh was soft, low, vibrating through me as he captured my lips again. "It's ours," he said, pressing us together. "All of it. Every touch, every heartbeat, every moment yours." As the day turned to night, we stayed wrapped in each other, hands tracing curves, lips brushing, bodies pressed close. The fire between us, built from years of friendship, longing, and trust, burned hotter than anything I had ever known. In Otto's arms, I felt the culmination of everything, the betrayal, the cunning rebirth, the triumph, and now the profound, all-encompassing love. I had lost so much to Hans, but with Otto, I had found everything: passion, devotion, and a partner who cherished me as the only masterpiece that mattered. And as we finally drifted into the quiet intimacy of the night, entwined, hearts racing, breath mingling, I knew that this love, this fire, this unwavering connection was my happily ever after. Forever with Otto, the boy next door, the man who loved me through it all, and the only one who would ever hold the key to my heart.